Today we're going to work with how to find the tone or mood from a book, from a story, or literally just from any text. So let's start by defining tone and giving some examples. Now, the tone of your voice can change the meaning of your words. Has your mom or dad or even a teacher ever said, "Now please don't use that tone of voice with me"? What does that mean? So the tone of your voice can change a compliment into something opposite, maybe even a sarcastic remark. So you could say, "Your hair looks so cute today," and mean it. But the tone of your voice could change that compliment over to make us not believe what you said. "Your hair looks so cute today." So what is tone? Well, tone is the author's attitude towards the audience, perhaps the subject of the text, or the characters in the story. So let's take a look at our picture on the right-hand side of the slide. What is the tone of this picture, and what is the attitude of the drill sergeant? So the drill sergeant is going to be the person in the left-hand side of the picture. So looking at the idea of the tone, what do you think his attitude is towards the man he is looking at? I would suspect that he's attempting to have some sort of an argument, that he is apparently unhappy, maybe even upset with something that the other gentleman, the other soldier, is talking about. So the tone and the attitude that I see in this picture is very upsetting, very tense, maybe a little bit stressful. So how do we know what tone is when we look at actual text? Well, tone is conveyed through the words that the author uses. Check out your adjectives. A lot of times the adverbs will help as well, but a lot of times you want to start with your adjectives, such as happy words. If you're seeing words such as cheerful and joyful, satisfied, buoyant and radiant, lucky and advantageous, that is a positive, happy tone. If you're seeing words such as arguments, if there's frustration, or if something is horrible or hideous or selfish, if something is being described as atrocious or someone is being arrogant, those are angry words. You're going to have a negative tone. So let's see if we can start identifying tone. Now, the paragraph below is from The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Let's check out the highlighted sections and let's ask what it might make you think about. "My experience of camp life in Afghanistan had at least had the effect of making me a prompt and ready traveler. My wants were few and simple, so that in less than the time stated, I was in a cab with my valise, rattling away to Paddington Station. Sherlock Holmes was pacing up and down the platform, his tall, gaunt figure made even gaunter and taller by his long gray traveling cloak and his close-fitting cloth cap." Now, when someone paces up and down the platform, do you think they're relaxed in happy tones? Do you think they're agitated, like maybe they're in angry or upset tones? I would probably think he's not very relaxed. If he's pacing up and down the platform, I would probably call him agitated, that he's into something stressful, that there might be something upsetting. Now, describing Holmes as a gaunt figure, does that give you a happy idea? Is it positive, or is it more of an angry or a negative? His tall, gaunt figure made even gaunter and taller by his long, gray traveling cloak and his close-fitting cloth cap. If he is a gaunt figure with his gray traveling cloak, that gives me more of a negative impression. So how do we decode tone? When someone is pacing, it's typically because they can't sit, because of the anxiety or the annoyance. Now, the author chooses the word pacing up and down the platform to let the reader know that the person waiting, in this case Sherlock Holmes, is irritated for having to wait for Mr. Watson to show up. It might also imply that Watson is just late for the meeting. So what does this make you think about the tone of the story, or make you think about Sherlock Holmes as a person? So when someone is described as gaunt, they look too skinny, they're haggard, they're grim, maybe even gloomy in appearance. None of these words are positive. So they probably make you think the figure is exhausted. Maybe they've had some trauma, some sort of accidents in their life. So what does this now make you think about the tone of the story, the tone of the paragraph? So when we think of tone and the author's choice of their words, we also need to take in the reader's tone, and we call that mood. The mood of the piece can change with the use of different words. So the mood is the emotions that the reader feels as he or she reads the text, where the tone comes from the author. How does the author present their text? The mood is the emotions that the reader is giving as they feel from the text. So the emotions that you feel while reading a book may change from chapter to chapter or from scene to scene. Sometimes literature can make you feel all the same words, the happy words and the angry words that we saw with tone. But this time it is on your part, the reader or the viewer. They could feel angry, they could feel silly, they could feel happy. So let's try the mood of this introduction. One dark and stormy night, 3 robbers sat in their den. One robber said to the other, "Tell me a story." And this is how the story began. So if it's dark outside and stormy, you would think that this is windy, it's raining, they're inside a cave, so it's damp, it's uncomfortable. You might feel bad for the men, except for we also know they're robbers, and it gives the connotation that they're hiding out. So let's look at this again. Does the mood change? One dark and stormy night, 3 robbers sat in their den. One robber said to the other, "Tell me a story." And this is how the story began. One dark and stormy night, 3 robbers sat in their den. One robber said to the other, "Tell me a story." And this is how the story began. Now your mood's probably changing because you're now, as the reader, in on the joke. It's a repetition of the beginning of the story. It kind of seems like it's stuck in a loop. Whereas our first mood, when we read about dark and stormy night and how uncomfortable the robbers might be, it had a more serious type of a mood, maybe even a negative or uncomfortable mood. But now that we see we have this repeating kind of loop for our story, it's taken on a different mood. Perhaps you're annoyed that it's repeating. Perhaps you find it kind of funny. At least the mood has now changed. So our final thoughts on mood and tone. Tone is the author's attitude about the story, what the author thinks about it. You need to look at the scripts, you need to look at the sentences, you need to look at the words that the author is using to figure out the tone. At the same time, while you're reading for tone, you as the reader or as the viewer are feeling mood. Mood is the feeling of the author's words, what he or she wants the reader or viewer to feel when they read it. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Please be sure to check out some more of my videos.